guys, it's Luke again, and today we have a very special episode of Motor Minds for one reason only. It's our 10th episode after a month and a half of painstakingly making these amazing videos. We have arrived at episode 10, and because of this, we are reviewing a super special car. Believe it or not, we are reviewing my friend's 2016 Toyota Camry LE. It is just unbelievable. I did not expect to be able to drive a car like this at my 10th episode. A brand new Toyota Camry, that's just insane stuff right there. It's even a base model LE, like that's just some crazy stuff. Oh my God. But we are now in the Camry right now. It's my first time ever driving a Camry with a 4-cylinder. Actually, I've driven the V6 and I've driven the hybrid, but I've never driven the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. So we're gonna see how it goes. So first off, let's start with the styling. The Camry has always been a very conservatively styled car because this car appeals to the masses. This is Toyota's best-selling product, and it's actually been the country's bestseller a few times now. So because of that, Toyota needs to make sure that the styling is conservative and appeals to everybody to make sure they don't lose any of their buyers. But they also gave it a bit more of a flair this time because the Camry's been under a lot of criticism for being a very boring car. So they really restyled it quite aggressively in the front end. You have this huge, massive grille in the front end that kind of goes down all the way to the bottom of the bumper and spreads out like an upside down V. It looks really aggressive, and it kind of builds upon the old design of the Camry just with this more aggressive stance. And the headlights are kind of reminiscent of the old car, but they look more like talons of an eagle than I ever thought they would before. It's a lot more aggressive and a lot more menacing than you would have ever expected to see in a Camry. I certainly never expected to see it in a Camry. Moving on to the sides, not a whole lot going on there. They're classic family sedan lines. The lines are actually nice and low, so you have a good view out of the side windows. And when you get around to the back, I think the back is sculpted a bit nicer than it was before the old Camry. It kind of had a lot of sharp angles in the back, especially around the rear quarter panels. They're pretty sharply angled. This car, it's a lot swoopier, a lot curvier, and the rear tail lights really curve into the whole design a whole lot more than it used to. It was a lot more angular in previous models, and I think it looks a whole lot better and a whole lot more fluid, giving the whole car a sleeker profile than it did before. Is it a sports car in appearance? No, it's not. But for a Camry, I think it looks pretty darn good. It looks a whole lot more purposeful than I ever would have expected to see out of a car like this. So let's move on to the powertrain. As I said earlier, this is the 2.5 liter Camry with 178 horsepower. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, especially considering the car weighs about 3,200 pounds. But I was really surprised when I first got behind the wheel. It's actually pretty quick. It's made into a 6-speed automatic transmission, which shifts pretty well. It's a very smooth transmission. And while the engine has a little bit of whine at lower RPMs, it's really not that intrusive. It's a very smooth, quiet powertrain. And when I got on the gas, once you're above like 2,500 RPM, this thing really goes. Like, it's not fast, but it's quick, it's sprightly, it's a fun car. I really like it. And this transmission also has select shift. Quite frankly, in a Camry, no one's gonna use it, so I'm just not even gonna bother to tell you about that. It's pointless in a car like this. And this powertrain, combined with the 6-speed automatic transmission, whole deal, engine transmission, gives you 25 city, 35 highway. Overall, this car gets pretty good mileage. I wouldn't be worried about that. It's a 4-cylinder Camry, so you're gonna be fine. So let's talk about the driving experience. To be brutally honest, this car isn't appealing to someone that likes driving. This appeals to the person that wants to get behind the wheel and just go from point A to point B without any problems whatsoever. And you can tell that in the driving experience. The steering is not very good at communicating the road to the driver. So it kind of just feels, it's a lot better than some steering in terms of like the fact that it doesn't feel like you're turning a dial on the radio, but it's very slow to respond. It's just not very communicative. I mean, it's very easy to operate. The action is light, and it's very easy to just tootle this thing around town, and on the highway it firms up a fair amount. But it's just not a very enjoyable steering system to operate, but it definitely gets the job done. The ride in this car is phenomenal. Oh my God. This car has the 16-inch steel wheels, which probably help out with the ride a bit, but even so, this car just rides like it's on a cloud. It's unbelievable just how isolated this ride is. You really feel no bumps. And then that also brings me on to the road noise and the wind noise, or therefore the lack of, because this car is so quiet inside. It's not Lexus quiet, but it's pretty damn close. Like, you really hear no wind noise and no road noise. I was driving down a road with a 35-mile-an-hour limit, and I looked down and realized I was going considerably faster than that, and I didn't even notice just because of how silent it is in here. I was very, very impressed with that. So let's move on to the interior of the Camry. So the interior, it's basically the same interior as you saw in the previous Camry, except for they redesigned some of the air vents and repositioned a few things. So I think it looks really nice at a first glance. You have this nice stitching running along the dash. It's kind of like a layered dash. You have a layer of fake wood, a layer of hard plastic, and then a layer of soft touch plastic with stitching on it. It's very nice. I like the contour of the dash. It's very fluid and it flows nicely and looks upscale. But once you touch it, you start to realize that some things in this base model Camry don't quite stack up. Like the center console, for instance, like right around the display, it's cheap plastic. And then the soft touch dashboard isn't consistently soft touch. There's a panel right above the central air vents that is hard plastic. Now, are you ever going to notice that? Probably not. But why didn't they just make it soft touch? I mean, just keep that continuity across the dashboard. But the interior itself is very, very nice overall for a $23,000 car. The seats are cloth seats, and honestly, they have a lot of adjustment, but I'm struggling to get super comfortable in them. They're not uncomfortable, but I feel like I could use a bit more support adjustment, especially in the lumbar department. It just seems like there's something lacking there in terms of support. But overall, they're pretty good seats. It might just be because I'm a tall guy measuring up at 6'2". But yeah, the other thing I love about this interior is the steering wheel of this car. While the steering may not be that great, the steering wheel is big and meaty and feels very substantial in your hands, which is really nice when you're driving a car. I like a big fat steering wheel. So also, one big key selling feature of this car is the back seat, which is cavernous. There's tons of room back there. You can sit back there, cross your legs. It's a good time. It's great for a family sedan. So let's move on to the technology in this car. So this car has Toyota's Entune system. It's the base Entune system, but it's 6.1 inches in terms of screen size, and the graphics are big and easy to use. And one thing I love about this system is that there are exactly 6 buttons next to it, 6 of them. That's it. They're huge. They're probably like 2 inches across, these buttons. They're massive buttons. And it makes it very easy to figure out what to do. Like there's a big button here. Let's say I want to listen to the radio. Huge button that says audio. If Consumer Reports was reviewing this car, they wouldn't give their whole spiel about how the controls are so hard to use. Like classic spiel from Consumer Reports there. But I mean, they would not be able to say anything about this system because it's so easy to use. The AC controls are easy. And the whole system itself, it's quick to respond. The graphics aren't amazing, but they're clear and very easy to read. So I think that's what really matters. So let's move on to how I feel driving the Camry. So the Camry itself, it's a very nice car. And I've always liked the Camry. My grandmother got a Camry. That was like the first car I can remember riding in. And I loved that thing, and ever since then, I've been a fan of Camrys. Even though I'm a driver's car kind of guy, I mean, I still like the Camry. And I think it serves its purpose. There's a reason this car has been sold very, very well all across the country. It's because it's smooth, refined, practical. I mean, the trunk in this car is 15.4 cubic inches. You can haul a boatload of crap in there. I mean, this car is just everything that the average car buyer wants. They want refinement. They want efficiency, they want practicality, and they want it at a cheap price. And the Camry certainly delivers that. I mean, if I were you, I would step it up a notch and maybe get an XSE or maybe a mid-model Camry. But, I mean, this base model just cuts it so well. I mean, you have a nice stereo system. It's not great, but it gets the job done. You have a sophisticated-looking interior, and overall, it's just a really nice car. And in terms of personality, there's not a whole lot of personality going on here. It feels more like an appliance than a car. You just combine the engine that doesn't really sound like anything inspiring, the steering that isn't very much fun to operate, and the fact that the whole ride's kind of not pinned down. I mean, the whole thing just doesn't really come together as something that's sporty or something that's going to really be something that you're going to remember. You're not really going to walk out of the Camry. You're not going to get out of the Camry and be like, oh man, can't wait until I drive my next Camry. It's just not going to happen. You're never going to feel that way about this car. Yes, it tries to be sporty. It has the sporty exterior. It has a select shift transmission, and the interior looks a bit more menacing than it did before, a bit more purposeful in terms of its design. But overall, you're just not going to hop in this car and just be like, man, I am loving this. You're just not going to feel that way. It's a car that's meant to get you from A to B, and it does that very well. It's nice, refined, efficient, and cheap. Gets the jobs done, and because of that, the Camry is one of America's best-selling cars, and I think it will continue to be one of America's best-selling cars. Toyota figured out the secret formula, and they're going to stick with that, and because of that, the Camry is going to continue to be popular. If you're looking at a mid-size sedan and you're not looking for something that's super spicy or super fun, I would definitely consider the Camry. It has bulletproof reliability from Toyota, and it combines all these great factors to make it a really nice car for a mid-sized family. I mean, this is what you're looking for. So I definitely wouldn't go without checking out this car. So thanks again for watching, guys. I'm glad you bothered to watch our 10th episode of Motor Minds. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, like, subscribe, find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and MotorMindsProductions.com. You guys got to check it out. That is a hype website. It is basically one big fat link to our YouTube channel, so definitely check it out. There's a whole lot of good reasons to do so. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you guys at our next episode.